topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. This isn't just a podcast. This is a call to action for all entrepreneurs who are tired of seeing their businesses and communities suffer while big business continues to grow by the billions. We challenge you to apply the content of our time together to create businesses that your clients can't resist, your employees love to work for, and your communities can depend on. Now is the time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. Yes, now is the time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. And we are so happy to have Cortez of Cortez Hustle Show here with us. And he's been educating entrepreneurs, or really even people who maybe might be aspiring to entrepreneurs, for years now. And he's really big on education, but generational wealth and how to build your presence in digital marketing. So we're really happy to have him here. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Cortez.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend.
Absolutely. I love our conversations, man. So today we're going to have, like we always do, we have it, excuse me, broken up into two parts. The first part is really about the urgency for generational wealth, why this is kind of misunderstood and sometimes even kind of put in a negative context, and why it's really important for everyone to consider, especially if you've never really thought about it before. And then we're going to get into small business digital marketing and why that is also critically important and urgent for you to perhaps shift some perspectives on if you're not doing anything with it already. And if you are already doing something with it, it might be a good refresher, maybe a good pat on the back as we dig into that. So let's dig in. Here, the first part is like we really need to stop just kind of ignoring this idea of generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this a lot with people from all sorts of backgrounds, but it's kind of like, well, my kids need to pull themselves up by the bootstrap, just like I did. Or I've even heard people, I'm not going to leave my kids anything. That's not necessarily bad. I think to teach them how to kind of fend for themselves to a degree, but I think maybe we need to kind of pull that apart a little bit. So, Cortez, how would you define generational wealth?
For me, Matt, it is a simple premise of not having the next generation to have to start over. And you and I both know it's not just about money, right? It could be the wealth of knowledge that you're going to pass down to the next generation. It could be the wealth of relationships and partnerships that one has built over time, introducing your children to the right people that can help them take the next generation forward. So it's all about making sure that the next generation doesn't have to start from scratch. Life is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And when you have the wrong perspective, you literally will pass the baton to the next generation. And instead of them picking up where you left off, you're basically telling them, no, you go all the way back to the starting line and you start from there and build from the ground up. And that is no way to build a family. That is no way to build a community. And quite frankly, it's causing a lot of suffrage for us as a country because of a lack of focus on the necessary tools and resources to build generational wealth.
That's insightful, and you brought up like relationships and partnerships and some of the things that people don't really realize. What about the idea of like location? Do you think that even maybe getting your kids to a better location, or a location of more opportunities, or maybe even a different set of folks with a different mindset around you can make all the difference in the world?
Absolutely. We are who we are, Matt, based on three things primarily: the content that we consume, the people that we hang around, and the places that we go. And just that, if you did nothing else from a generational wealth perspective, but you busted your hump and got your children a chance to experience different parts of the world that you've never seen, that is building up on the legacy of your family. If you get them to meet maybe their first millionaire, no one else in the family has had a conversation with a millionaire, that is building upon the legacy that you're leaving. Now, obviously, you want to do as much as that as you possibly can, but environment has a lot to do with mindset, and mindset is everything. Your ability to believe in yourself has a lot to do with the environment in which you live, the things that you are exposed to. So it's critically important to, I like to encourage, especially parents, to invest in experiences over things, because that is what shapes us as individuals. And maybe you as a parent don't get to a place where you can pass down thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to your children, but maybe you're just the spark to that flame by what you expose your child to. And it is they that build the actual financial empire that changes the dynamic in your family. But that does not mean that your impact was any less valuable.
Whew, that's good. When you were talking there, something popped up into my mind. And so I'll put it out there, and I'll get your response. So when you were talking, I was like, a question came to mind. Like, so if you believe, as you're hearing this stuff, or if you know somebody who's like this, if you believe, well, I did well enough, I'm okay, even though I grew up here, or even though I went through this, and they'll be fine too. I think that's when you have to ask yourself, oh my gosh, like, am I really that so close-minded not to think that maybe they can have even better life, or maybe they won't turn out the same as me? Maybe they won't, or maybe this isn't even good enough. Like, maybe there could be more. So I love that idea of like experiences and going out there and seeing other things, because that's how perspectives change, and that's
Yeah.
how your world changes. So yeah, what do you think about like asking yourself kind of that question if you find yourself kind of having those thoughts?
I think it is deep, because there's good, better, best at everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we fall into that place where we compare ourselves to those around us. And here's the struggle, uh, um, Matt, that sometimes the comparison that we're making in the day and time that we live in, sometimes it's a comparison to mediocrity, right?
Mm,
We have gotten to a place
hmm.
in our country where mediocrity is celebrated way too much, and everybody has gotten to a place of complacency. So sometimes we look at
Yeah.
ourselves, if you're middle class, upper middle class, sometimes you'll see yourself as head and shoulders above everyone else.
Mm,
And that's fine if everyone else is at least average. But if you're head and shoulders below above people who are below average, what does that make you? It just makes you
hmm.
average, right? So I think having the right perspective. I remember listening to um, Dr. George Frazier. I had him interviewed on my show, and he talked
Mm,
about the power of education, right? He
yeah.
says, my level of education, where I live, determines my education, right?
Hmm.
Where I go to
Okay.
school. And
Yeah.
where I go to school determines where I go to college. And a lot of times, where I go to college determines my lifelong earning potential. So if I have the mindset that I grew up here and I am okay, so if my children grow up here, they're going to be okay. Well, you're going to send your children to the same schools. And those same
Hmm.
schools are going to open up only but so many doors for your children to get higher education. And their higher education is going to determine their lifelong earning potential. But
Yeah.
when you do not elevate or try to ascend, so that maybe my generation came up in a school district that was unaccredited, And that's fine. So I knew I had to get my children into a better school district where they can have a better chance to go into better colleges, which allow them to create better opportunities for lifelong earning potential. And there's a natural ascension when you have that mindset. But you cannot continue to think that what was good for me coming up in the 70s and 80s would be equally as good for my children, because the world has changed dramatically, and you've got to continue to move the needle forward if you want the next generation to have better opportunities.
I love you, first of all, using the word ascension. I mean, obviously, good plug there. Thanks for that. Um, so I definitely see where you're saying, getting people into a better environment, better location, giving them those opportunities for better education is critical for that forward movement for the family, for the legacy.
Mhm,
I wonder though, because I always try to think about, okay, so the people who are having like resistance to this,
mhm.
I wonder what's going on in their mindset, because I believe that every belief that we have served us in some way,
Yeah.
at some point in time, or it's serving us maybe sometimes just to protect us, like protect our ego.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of thinking about like somebody who might have resistance to this and still be fighting, like, oh yeah, this is bull.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on? Why do you think that they would have resistance to this?
I think, and I'll speak coming from my community as a Black man, and I
Okay.
get this a lot. This resistance in, um, we don't have to go and try to be like other communities. And I think one of the
Mm,
biggest things that we
mhm.
face is, okay, if we are not going to move and physically change locations, then we have to do what we can to change the location that we're in. And I just see
Okay.
a lot of people just being content and trying to make the most of those situations without impacting or affecting change.
Mm,
I don't think there's anything wrong with me growing up in the ghetto and wanting to escape the ghetto. I
mhm,
also don't think there's anything wrong with me growing up in the ghetto and wanting to stay in that community and rebuild it and make it better, make it more
mhm.
safe, improve the school systems, and improve the surroundings. But at the end of the day, you do that with resources. So I
Mhm.
don't care if you stay, you have to figure out how are you going to accumulate the resources to impact and affect change in a way that the next generation doesn't have to suffer from the same thing.
Mhm.
And even if you decide that you're going to move, you're going to require some resources to do that. How do I get enough resources to uproot the family, supplant them in a different environment, and allow them to accept that environment and grow to love that environment and make the most of that situation? But at the end of the day, it comes down to resources and
Mhm.
probably more importantly, Matt, resourcefulness. And I think that
Yeah.
is one of the things that is missing in poor communities when it comes to building generational wealth, in terms of the belief that A, I deserve better, B, I
Yeah.
have it within me to go out and get better, and I'm born and living in a country where the opportunities for me to have them both actually exist. When I say resourcefulness, if you are born or you grew up in poverty stricken situations, you are very resourceful. Like I remember as a kid
Yeah.
working on my bike with three tools, man. I had a steak knife as a Phillips screwdriver because you can angle the tip to get out a Phillips screw. I had a
Mhm.
butter
Mhm.
knife as a flathead screwdriver, and I had one pair of pliers. That was it, man. But I could build a bike from scratch with those three tools because I learned to be resourceful using what I had, right? But imagine had I had a full toolkit, what I could have
Yeah.
built then. So there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, make the most with what you have. But imagine having the most to start with. How much further can you get ahead that way?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that that's a great example too, because yeah, you had the simple tools and you could get by, but yeah, you could probably have done it a lot faster,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it too, like how tight, were those screws
Yeah. Right.
and how dangerous maybe how many times did you have to repair a bike because something wasn't tight enough because of the poor
Yeah,
tools
the
that you were
tools that
using
I had
for
in
that
hand.
job.
Yeah.
Man, that's I think that's deep if you really kind of carry that all the way through. You know, this is a topic that I think that a lot of minorities struggle with, because I think from our conversations and from conversations with other folks in the minority communities, um, it sometimes they struggle with people telling them that they should be content with what they've got, that they
Hmm.
should be happy enough with where they are, and that their community is kind of like more important than maybe even their own well-being.
Yeah.
Um, is it- is that something that holds people back?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I think there is a sense coming up as a Christian in the Black church. There is a sense and a belief that there is humility in poverty, right?
Mm,
There's a sense and a
yeah.
belief that to gain wealth or financial stability, even or success in material things, means that you're automatically going to lose yourself, right?
Mm,
And that
mhm.
does really hold people back. Another thing on a deeper level, I coined a term called Blackophobia.
Okay, tell me
And
more
you
about
know,
that.
acrophobia, that is the fear of heights, right? If you
Mm,
are afraid of heights, that's acrophobia. Well, Black people have something called blackophobia, where we have an innate fear of ascending to new heights. And
hmm,
what that means is, Matt, there was a time in our history where success could literally get us killed, right?
okay.
So, as a result of that, we suffer more from self sabotage than I think any group of people on the planet,
Mm,
because we go so far in the back of our minds. It is the dominant society is only going to let you have so much success before they burn you down like a Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that kind of stuff.
oof,
So that's a real thing for us to say, hey, we're going to get so far, and if we get too far too fast, is going to end up uh, 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 coming after us, or they're going to tear it down anyway. So we get this why bother
mm,
mentality. And that is a real thing for a lot of us. So if success means that I'm going to get so high and then they're going to tear us down, then why go through all the effort to be successful? Why go through all the effort to build wealth when we had the black banks that were torn down and that kind of stuff? So that's another deeper component to our struggles with not just financial success, but success in any arena. Is if I'm climbing the corporate ladder, in the back of my mind, I have to wrestle with, you're only going to be able to get
mm,
but so far. And if you do end up becoming the head of the company, they're going to find a way to tear you down. So is it worth me even going through the effort to get there? So I think that's a huge part of it. And then the spiritual aspect that we are taught in the church, that in order to be meek and humble, we could equate that with poverty and lack. And those two things are deeply, deeply, deeply embedded within our DNA, Matt. And so those are some of the things that we have to fight to overcome. And it takes courage to do it. And that's why I fight the fight that I fight, is to
yeah.
help empower people and help to encourage them to take the courage to move to the next steps. And let's see where the chips fall where they may, but don't not do anything because you're anticipating some evils, or you're anticipating some hurts. I'm going to build $1 billion business, and then if they want to tear me down, I'll figure out how I'm going to fight from that point.
Well, I mean, with $1 billion, you have a lot more resources to fight with too.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
helps. That helps.
Exactly.
Again, resources are important. But
Yeah.
Cortez, I really appreciate you kind of, I mean, bearing your soul here a little bit
Yeah.
for folks. Is so often I'll hear people say, well, why don't they just do this, or why don't they just do that, or
Yeah.
coming at it kind of from different perspectives. But um, to I always find that's important, and I know that my perspective is just from my life experiences,
Mhm.
and those experiences that you're sharing, that people deal with, that they hear people saying, even in the churches that they go to, and so deeply in the faith of like, well, money's evil, and
Mhm. Yeah.
poverty is what you should seek, and and really just having that kind of beaten into people's heads, or just that deep program. Because one thing that people I don't think realize, and I don't think I can say it enough, I probably say it almost every episode, but what you witness and experience up
Mhm.
to about age 7 really becomes your reality. Now, some
Yeah.
people, a smaller few, have a different temperament, and they'll
Mhm.
use some of that stuff as a fire for competition, or I'm not going to do it this way because, I mean, that maybe genetics, or maybe there was some sort of experience that taught them that they're not going to live like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to consider the larger percentage of the population, and how do we
Mhm.
equip them.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about this, it seems like really that mindset component. What are you feeding into your kids' heads is just as important as maybe the money that
Yeah.
you give them for that
Yeah.
generational wealth. Is that fair to say?
Extremely fair to say, Matt. It is critically important that they are equipped with self-confidence.
Mm,
It is critically important that they are equipped with critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. I've always told my children, and I have 5 sons, by the way. I've always told them that a man is two things. Number one thing a man has to be is responsible. The number
mm,
two thing a man has to be is a problem solver, right?
mhm,
Because at the end of the day, when things don't go right, who does everybody look to? They look to the man. Hey, you got to figure this thing out, right? If the bills don't get paid and the lights are out, what are we going to do, right? That's and when you equip them with the power to think critically and help them understand the importance of problem solving, that leads us into what we're going to talk about next is the entrepreneurial spirit. I
yeah.
believe, Matt, that the key to overcoming poverty and this economy and the way that America is set up is through entrepreneurship. Think about it.
Mhm,
Our
mhm,
biggest expense is taxes. There's two
mhm,
tax codes. There's one written for business owners and one written for those who are not. If you learn how to take your gifts, your talents, your special ability, your experiences, leverage that with the internet, start a business even while you're working your job, what that does is you got a steady paycheck coming from the job. And now you get to leverage what I believe is the number one wealth building tool in the world, the US tax code. So if I can, for instance, cut my tax bill in half because now I have a side business. I'm allotted a bunch of write-offs and things that's going to save me in taxes. So instead of paying $20,000 in taxes this year, I pay 10. If I
mm,
was smart enough to take the 10,000 in tax savings and leverage that to apply towards my debt, now I'm killing another one of the problems that we have as poor Americans is getting out of debt. And when I get
mhm,
out of debt, that helps us with a third area that we are focused on. Because when I pay down my debts, what happens? My credit score goes up. Better
mhm,
credit gives me better access to capital. My premiums for my insurance go down, which frees up even more money.
mhm,
Employers are checking credit nowadays before I get a job. I can probably get a better job with a better credit score. And it's a positive upward spiral when we understand the role that entrepreneurship could play in the lives of working class people. So that's a drum that I've been beating for the last 6 years and will continue to beat. Because if I start a business, I lower my taxes, I take the tax savings, get out of debt, that improves my credit score, that frees up money to do what? Now I have the capital to start investing and building the nest eggs. What I invested in a business, I invested in long-term paper assets, cryptocurrency, real estate. What to invest in has never been the problem, Matt. It is, where do I find the resources to invest? And that's not even to mention that you finally learn business and learn how to turn a profit. That brings in yet another stream. So I think the answer to poverty in this country is a serious education in the power of entrepreneurship.
Oh man, I love it. I mean, that's what this show's about, and I know that's what your show's about too.
Yeah.
I know you dig into a lot of this stuff, the financial equipping people financially with the tax code and entrepreneurship. So, what's your how do people find your podcast, real quick?
It is the Cortez Hustle Show on iTunes and all of the podcasting places. If they want to go and see the archive, they can simply go to thecortezhustleshow.com. And we have probably 80 or so episodes archived on that website.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think some big takeaways for this part of the show, and then we got to get to break. First of all, it's about knowledge and mindset, and really equipping your kids, with skills to be able to ascend. Then also there's that financial component, entrepreneurship, understanding tax code, and understanding how to leverage your finances potentially to help them to continue to ascend. No, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go to the half, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the importance of digital marketing. And don't turn it off. If you even think that you know digital marketing, or maybe there's some mystery there, or or maybe you dismiss digital marketing, like, I don't need that. I only get referrals, and that's good enough. It's not good enough. And we're going to talk about why coming up. Jason, please hit us with the commercial. Have you been suffering from chronic pain, disease, or sleep disorders? Did you know that 75 to 90% of disease is caused by inflammation in the body? The sad truth is, most doctors just treat symptoms rather than finding and fixing root causes of inflammation. If you want to fix your health problems, then finding and fixing the cause of the inflammation is a must. It's time to demand this for your health care and start living life to its fullest again. Book a discovery appointment with the Functional Health Team founder, Dr. Flora, to get your answers ASAP at www.functionalhealthteam.com.
Oh,
He's back. He's back.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm glad you're back. All right. I thought maybe you just, Matt's got this. I don't. I don't. All right. So part two, as we continue with the show today, is about digital marketing, and even like why an online presence is important. And Cortez does a lot with digital marketing as well, because if you don't have, really digital marketing is a key way to get revenue in your business. If you don't have revenue coming in, it's hard to have even a profit, right? You can't have a profit off of nothing. So it's critical important for that revenue system. So Cortez, why is like an online presence so important these days?
The reason it's so important, Matt, is because today the customer journey starts online. Even if someone is referring your business, and you made up the great point before we went to break, that a lot of companies are still dealing with referrals. Even when someone refers someone to me, I still go out on Google and I look at the reviews. The customer journey starts online. Yes, word of mouth is the most powerful form. We know that 70% or so of people who do business with a company through referrals, that's a great place to start, because they more likely will take action if a friend referred them. But still today, the customer journey starts online. And there's a misperception that if your company is not online, then it must not be legit. So now
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust you, even if I were referred from a friend. So I think that's the biggest and the most important reason to establish your online presence is because most people are starting that customer journey online.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the idea of even social media and how people kind of like don't have anything on their Facebook page, or like
Mhm.
you might have a website, but sometimes it's hard to tell if a business is still like even active with the website. So
Yeah.
oftentimes I'll go and look at their social media pages,
Mhm.
Instagram or Facebook, or are they doing anything on LinkedIn, or just kind of see
Yeah.
if like they're still active, or if I want to see like pictures of what's going on, or their Google My
Mhm.
Business, or look at the
Yeah.
reviews. Yeah, so I see a lot of folks, and even in the construction realms, home services, where it's the quality of your work comes through in pictures,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
people want to see it. And I tell everybody, seeing is believing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So what do you feel like, so this online presence, where do you feel it's important to be present online? Because the internet's a pretty vast place.
Yeah.
So
It is. It is. And I would say, and to your point with social media and those sorts of things, um, not only is it important to be there, but we have so much of an ability to tell our story
mm,
on the internet. And I'm not a big fan of reality TV, Matt. But what
mhm,
reality TV has done to America, it makes people want to get behind the scenes. So people
mhm,
literally want to know the people behind the brand. And you
mhm,
can do that on social and control your own narrative. So I would say the primary place that people need to be, and so many entrepreneurs are missing this, Google My Business.
mm,
It is
mhm,
the primary place that people need to be. And then I would say, secondarily, of course, this is after your website, right? You got your website, you got your Google My Business presence optimized, and then you would pick the social media platform that allows you to be the most consistent, that allows you to communicate in the most effective form of communication for you,
mm,
and allows you to have the most fun, because when you're having fun, it's easy to be consistent. So, for instance,
mm,
my primary method of communication is via video. So
mhm,
I dominate on platforms where video is well received. I don't dominate on a platform like a Pinterest, because Pinterest is not about video. Man, I couldn't tell a story with a picture to save my life, right? But I do love to interact via video. So I use the platforms where that dominates. Now, if I was a great writer, then that would be a blog. If I like to use my voice and not necessarily want to be on camera, then I would have a podcast, right?
mhm,
So I would say your website should be highly optimized for your industry, optimized for mobile. Your Google My Business profile and platform should be optimized. And in fact, a lot of entrepreneurs don't know this, though, Matt, that you can use your Google My Business platform like a social media platform. You could post daily, you can use scheduled
mhm.
posts, you can post videos, you can run your specials, you can do all of that on Google My Business. In fact, I think it's 65% of customers base their buying decisions on dealing with a company from the Google My Business platform on how active they are or how recent they've posted on the platform. So,
Mm.
your website, Google My Business, and whichever platform lends itself to your communication strength, you having some fun, and being most consistent.
I love the fact that you brought in the fun component,
Yeah.
and that's so true. That's so true. That whatever wherever you have fun, it's a lot easier to be consistent.
Yep.
That's that's good. That's good. So, what would you recommend? In terms of if you're thinking about like target markets, right? Like, because there's folks who work more directly with consumers, which are, just people who, homeowners or just, the everyday people, right? Versus people who work, B2B, which is, working with the other businesses. So they're trying to market other businesses. Where do you think that people should consider, like, in those two different spaces, or what steps do you think people should take to consider, like, where their target market is and how they're going to kind of create a presence in those spaces?
I think, Matt, there's a big misconception that the target audience only lives on a certain platform. When you think about all of these platforms, they have tens of millions of individuals on them, right? So every platform has every target audience on it. It's how you leverage the platform and your messaging that is most important. Now, we know for B2B, LinkedIn is real good, but that does not mean you can't do B2B on Facebook, right? That does not mean you can't do B2B on Instagram. But again, your ability to tell your story, I look at it at two ways. I can either go after my target audience, or I can bring my target audience to me. Now, I like more of the latter. So for instance, if I am in the B2B space, I just launched the Black Biz Success Show because I have the Black Biz Success app, which is a software platform designed for Black entrepreneurs to build out this presence, right? Well, I can try to go find them, or I can bring them to me. Well, I created a show, which is long form content that's drawing them to me with free information, resources, and interviews with top industry leaders in respective spaces that they want to hear from and learn from. So I'm bringing them to me using long form content. On the second side, on the other side of that, if I was going after them, then you could do that in a way, either paid or free, on any other platforms. Like, for instance, on the east side, if I was doing Facebook advertising, I would probably run advertising campaigns to employees of a particular business that I wanted to do business with, right? Because if I ran an ad to the employees of this company, for instance, entrepreneursascending.com, and I'm in the B2B space and I have some great resources that I think you would use, I would run an ad that says to employees of this company, that says something like this: hey, does your CEO know that you could work less and get more done if you had this tool? What do you think those employees are going to do? They're going to run that message up the chain. I keep getting this message on Facebook about this new tool out that we should be using in our industry, right? So there's a lot of different ways and angles that you can present yourself as a marketer to reach your target on any platform. So it's just about the creative genius of how to do it and partner with the right people that can coach you through it.
Yeah. That's good. And I think that's a little bit counter to what a lot of folks say. It's like, well, you need to go where they are and kind of dominate that space. But which I think there's still a lot of validity there. But to also think about it, hey, where do you love to play, if you will, and have fun? There's probably enough there that if you do it, you do it right, you'll attract the right kind of folks.
So and I think the other thing with that, Matt, is if I like to play on Instagram and I want to build a community around me there, and I know that there are, a lot of my target audience on LinkedIn, then I would just connect with LinkedIn influencers to create an ability to reach them without necessarily having to make that my dominant platform, right? So there are people on LinkedIn who do shows like this every single day, and every niche in every industry possible. Well, I
Mhm.
would just figure out, okay, instead of me building a following on LinkedIn, how do I tap into other people's following who are already speaking to my audience? So that's another
Yeah,
way that you can leverage those platforms without necessarily having to build on them.
that's a good point because you're on my show today, and I'll be on your show tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, a little sharing there. That's a great point. So, what are some additional ways that folks can maybe, tap into other communities, um, like kind of like you're talking about. So I guess being on each other's shows is kind of one way. What else is there?
Yeah, I think understanding the power of podcasting is
Hmm.
huge. The power of blogging has never gone away.
Hmm.
But people, that's one that people neglect. And the power of building your stage, Matt.
Hmm.
I think every business that's serious about building an online presence has to build a stage. Every company should either have a podcast, should either have a blog, or should either have some sort of long form show or stream or something like this where they bring their ideal followers to them. I think there's a tremendous amount of shift in the marketplace where podcasts are literally becoming the new radio, right?
Hmm.
Live stream shows like this are literally becoming the new TV, and blogs are becoming the new newspaper. So creating a stage where you can bring other people on it allows for that cross marketing appeal, very similar to what we're doing
Hmm.
here. But also, I think making sure that you're getting out of the not out of the analog age, but adding the digital age, right? There's three things that we need to be doing in the area of marketing. We need to be capturing our leads, we need to be nurturing our leads, and we
Hmm.
need to be managing our brand's reputation
Hmm.
online. And I think there's a lot of businesses that are still not figuring out the best ways to constantly capture leads, nurture them so that they can convert those leads into customers. And you do that with landing pages. You do that because we're in the age of giving first, right? So you do that
Yeah.
by giving value first in exchange for a name, email address, phone number, an appointment on your calendar, or whatever. Capture the lead, then nurture the lead. What are the conversations and the messaging that's going out to these folks, mostly on autopilot in a lot of cases, that continues to sell them on why your brand is worthy of partnering with, and then managing that reputation online, making a concerted effort to get the Google reviews, and making sure that all of your data across all of the social platforms is accurate and paints the exact picture of your brand that you want to have painted.
Mm, that's good. That's good. So, let's. We've got just a few more minutes before we start. You just close out here, but what are some principles? Because I think that capturing the lead online. What are some core principles that people need to consider when doing that? Because I think that's kind of like a misunderstanding. Like I see too much branding going on as opposed to really
Mhm.
trying to, capture the attention of the lead information in a way that you can nurture that. So tell me more
Yeah,
about what is capturing a lead, and how do how do you do that?
yeah. I think the best way in order to prove that you can help someone is to actually help them. What I mean,
Mm,
if I'm saying that I can solve your problem when it comes to digital marketing, then I'm going to solve it for you first before
mhm,
I even ask you to buy anything from me. So it's the whole lead with value approach. And the only thing that I'm asking for in exchange is your email address for you to get this value that I want to present to
yeah.
you. And it is literally something that you can use and deploy in your business. I see a lot of lead generation strategies that don't provide any legitimate value that could be
Mm,
used. I want to give you something so valuable that it's going to put money in your pocket. And when it puts the money in your pocket, you're going to remember where that value came from and say, hey, if he gave me this for free, I wonder what he has if I buy into his program. So I think that is understanding your value propositions and be willing to give of something of value for free is how you best capture the lead. But then on the back end, having your automation set up in a way that says, okay, I've given you this for free. Let me continue to tell my story and why what we do works so well. Let me email you some case studies, and all of this stuff can be done on autopilot to help build the relationship. And if nothing else, Matt, once I have your name and email address, I can stay top of mind. You may not buy anything from me tomorrow. You may not buy anything from me next week. But if I'm emailing you once or twice a week, when you have a need, then I'm top of mind as to one of the choices that you're going to seek out to solve that problem for you.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And you said nurturing that lead, and earlier you talked about the buyer's journey and how it kind of starts online. How does the buyer's journey factor into that lead nurturing?
The buyer's journey start with an awareness of their problem, right? And they start seeking solutions, and then they become aware of you and what you have to offer. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are missing the ability to tell their story as to why, right? I want people to know why I care enough to create a solution for this problem, right? I developed the Black Biz Success app because Black entrepreneurs were constantly saying they cannot afford marketing and branding services, right? So
Yeah.
if you can't afford to market, you can't bring in any customers. You can't bring customers. You can't bring revenue. And to your point, no revenue, no profits. So we got to figure out how to solve them. Why do I want to solve this problem? Because a lot of the other problems in our community come from our lack of economic empowerment. Well, it's not just the what is this product and what can it do. I think when you communicate why it matters to you, particularly, I think you make an emotional connection with your particular customers, and they start to understand, if I'm going to invest money anywhere, I'm going to invest in the why behind this brand, because I want to see this brand win as much as I want to see my own brand win. And I think that's critically important in the customer's journey, to make sure you're painting that picture constantly, who you are, what you do, how you do it, how well you do it, but more importantly, why you do it is how you create those lasting bonds for the customers on that journey.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Helping them to understand why you're the best decision for them. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. And so, and like, because we have to kind of close out here in like 30 seconds. What do you think are some of the biggest steps to take for small business owners in terms of that digital marketing space to get started?
Yeah, I think they have to review their SEO and how well optimized, which SEO, search engine optimization. How well is your website optimized for the internet in general? How well is it optimized for mobile? 65% of all customers are making their purchases from their mobile device. And then how well optimized is your Google My Business profile, if you even have one? And if you don't have one, then it's free, people. Go set up your Google My Business profile so that your brand reputation can be intentionally managed. And then the biggest thing of them all is fight for your reviews. You do good work for someone, then make sure that before they walk out the door, they leave you a positive review on Google, because that's what your reputation is all about. If someone comes to my site and they see I've got 10 reviews, they think I'm a small operation. And it doesn't mean I didn't serve well hundreds of people. I just didn't fight for the review. So I think optimizing the website, optimizing it for mobile, optimizing Google My Business profile, And fighting for reviews goes a long way to building a solid digital marketing presence so that when someone searches for you and they find you, they see exactly what you want them to see, which is a clear picture of who you really are.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Cortez. Again, he's got 2 shows, and you need to definitely check them out. And we gotta wrap up here today. So thank you so much. Don't forget our free business coaching at freebusinesscoaching.eventbrite.com is December 10th, this Friday. And take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life